here we talked about reliability and validity, and I mentioned reliability refers to Allahumma salli ala Rasulillah, that there is a high probability of coming up with the same results or similar results if the same methodology was applied. The same methodology was applied. And we do research, somebody else is doing it, following their own methodology, using similar data, similar subjects. There is a high probability for it, and there is a statistical measure for it, that they will come up with the same results. And the more reliable your research, the more valuable it is. Another issue that usually people talk about, and here they didn't talk about in detail, I'd like you to pay attention to, which is validity. Sometimes your research is reliable, but is it valid? Is it testing what's supposed to be testing? Is it questioning, answering what you're questioning? And these issues are very important to be taking place in research that is valid and reliable is very, very rare. I mean, in terms of significant reliability and significant validity, because there is a way to test validity and reliability. So your research is valid if it is testing, it's coming up with testing what is questioning. Okay, it is really dealing with your results related to your questions. Okay, they are valid. The methodology that you're using is valid in the sense it really tests. You analyze the material that you have. Analyze what you're really questioning. Okay, so there is a relationship if your research is valid when it is answering what is testing or questioning. Reliable is when it is duplicated. There is high probability that you'll come up with the same results. People there is when you talk about research purpose, there are people research for many reasons. They give you an example here is exploratory, okay, research, in the sense that the goal is to generate many ideas, to develop tentative theories and conjunctions, to become familiar with the basic facts, people, and concerns, and people are concerned or involved. Allahumma salli ala Rasulillah. To formulate questions and refine issues for future research. So it is exploratory. You just bring something that people will benefit from in a descriptive manner. Okay, used when little is written on an issue. Okay, sometimes nobody write about the relationship of breastfeeding and the emergence of breast cancer. Okay, طبعا ما أدري حد هذا كتب فيه ولا لا. This is an issue, or something that people do a lot of research on that from one perspective, which is أتمنى حد يشتغل فيها هذا. The relationship of obedience, of we call it birr, and breastfeeding, mother breastfeeding. This is a social issue. Okay, is there a relationship? And this is explanatory. I mean, exploratory in the sense that you formulate questions and you look at them, you find out how to deal with them, and some of, especially with issues that there has been not much research and valid theory. I mean, valid or well-established theory existing. Let me ask you a question. How do we differentiate a theory from a hypothesis? How do we differentiate a theory from a hypothesis? Anyway, a theory is basically a hypothesis that has its tools of negation. What does that mean? I mean, a theory gives you a hypothesis, but tells you if this takes place, then this theory is invalid. Okay, they give you, what shall I say, a way to test it. A way to test. We refer to this type of research that gives you explanation and things without many numbers and experiments. We call it qualitative research. And there is a lot of this sometimes now there is a trend in doing a lot of qualitative research, okay? Especially with Allahumma salli ala Rasulillah, issues related to soft sciences, because numbers could be played with. Numbers are not always accurate. It's not enough to have a valid sample. نتكلم عن sample. عادة عندك population that you deal with. مثلا تبغى تقول مثلا اللهم صل على رسول الله, relative close as a grammatical problem that middle school children face in Saudi Arabia. How many people are going to study? We have, in the middle school, you have probably 50,000, 60,000, something like that. How many people are you going to include in the study? 100, 200, 300, 400, 5, 1,000? No matter what your sample is, it may not be representative. This is we'll talk about, inshallah, of your population. So this is sometimes people who lead to qualitative research, which focuses in more of logical arguments. Logical arguments. Okay, logical arguments about issues. طبعا هذا موجود كثير in history, political sciences, education. لا, education يستخدمون a lot of, but philosophy education. طبعا you find this in fiqh, research in fiqh, in aqidah, in many of these fields. ولهذا if one of the great researchers that I found in my life that I really appreciate and respect and I benefited from, Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, because he uses a lot of argumentative work, research in what they call it qualitative research, mean quality, and quantitative mean for numbers. Okay, different purposes of research. As again, we have descriptive research. Again, explanatory and descriptive. Okay, which is, as they give you definition here, presents a group of or describes a process, mechanism, or relationship, or presents basic background information or a context. And this is used for applied research most of the time. They give you examples here of general household surveys, describe demographic characteristics, economic factors and social trends. That tell you, yes, we have this income. When you have more income, you have more children, you buy more, you do this. They look at correlations, okay, describing certain phenomena that exist most of the time through using statistics, okay. Like social trends, even political trends. They could forecast who will be winning, Trump or Clinton, based on the surveys that we make to people, seeking their own feedback, as well as filling out questionnaires and collecting what goes in the media. They come up with all these things that they could forecast who will be. اللهم صل على رسول الله. So طبعا, as they said, it can be used to monitor changes in family structure and household consumption, etc. Nowadays, anybody in economics could come and study with, there is a cut on some of the allowances. For example, if I used to get 30,000 riyals, with the cut of the allowances, I'll end up with 20,000 riyals. the same amount will not be spending. So more will be spending on basic household needs rather than in commodities. Okay, you know, probably if I want to think of buying a new car, as long as my car is doing well, I will not think of changing my furniture. You start looking at the basics. This could be forecasted based on previous studies. They could study in the field how many people are affected. And later on, they will find out with businesses that have been affected. I used to take my family, for example, to a fancy restaurant and we eat for 500 riyals, 600 riyals. Nowadays, if I want to go to a restaurant based on my budget, where 30% of my income has gone away, so I will not go to that restaurant. I'll go to 100 riyal, 150 riyal restaurants. I'll be eating good food. I'm saving money, you see. These kind of studies that they talk about now can also be used to gain an insight into the changing social and economic circumstances of population groups. And this is I talked about, giving example. This usually follows questionnaire surveys, interviewing people, comparing situations. And anything that in this emerges from, I remember a colleague of mine, Dr. Hussein Abeid, he's an economist. You know, when Hafiz came into existence, many people thought that Hafiz is going to really hurt our national budget. But he found something very interesting, that people spend, when they get this, the GNP, General National Budget, increased. People used to buy more, started buying more. So the economic situation prospered. People opened more stores. You know, they found avenues to spend. Money recycling in the society changed and benefited. See, that really affects the whole economy. This is one of the studies that are related to what we do here. Anyway, that could be done even in our field. We describe a phenomena like evaluation of for example, if you have two schools and you make a comparison between a private school and a public school in teaching English, for example. You compare the level of the students here, the level of the student there, by giving them some form of exams, placement tests, whatever. Okay, see the level, and you try to explain what are the factors. You control all the factors, the variables that you have in mind, here and there, and make sure that the only difference that exists is because those public school and those in private school. But this is very difficult to do. Anyway, I'm just telling you, like this is something that an example of what might be considered descriptive. Here they talked about explanatory. Analytical, I would really disagree with calling it analytical, because every research type is analytical. Okay, both a lot of analysis, so we need to be, don't confuse that. But explanatory, as I mentioned, goes beyond simple description to a model empirically the social phenomena under investigation. Meaning, you ask him the why question. Why this phenomenon is taking place? I have a model for it. I think even if it takes place in this place, in a similar condition, in this place it will take place. No doubts, you see. But you have Allah Azza wa Jalla gives phenomenon like these highly explanatory rules. Okay, إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. There is no way, you see. And if people change themselves, things will change. وما كان الله مغير اللهم صل على سيدنا حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. I forget the ayah, but this is basic rule of change. This is high level of a rule that can never be negated. See, because it has become a fact. And this is something that hardly in any human being work. Involves theory testing or elaborating of a theory. هذا كلام صحيح. Any people, what scientists do in any field, they develop a theory. Develop a theory means as I mentioned, a hypothesis that can be negated in certain contexts, but it has enough evidence to stand up as a theory, ready for Allahumma salli ala sallam, for testing. You know, hypothesis. You cannot test a hypothesis. You know, if you take Shapiro-Whorf hypothesis, if you remember, people fail to find anything with it. And it might work in certain place. You might bring an evidence for it, but you cannot develop a theoretical paradigm that is consistent, that could be tested, that has valid tools that you apply. Okay. And as we said in explanatory research, which is true, it's most of the time it's in basic sciences. When you go to the lab, you bring water, you put an experiment in front of you in the lab. You could control the lab environment because it's easy control, but you cannot control life. Okay, and electrons in physics, neutrons, things like that. That you could really control the research environment in which it takes place. Therefore, you could come up with something which is explanatory to a certain level. Very interesting. طبعا تذكرون in education there is a paradigm, okay, that starts with memorization to the highest level, which is evaluation. Evaluative research is among the very highly respected research, but it focuses, as they give you here, the characteristics of evaluation in collecting data to ascertain the effect of some form of planned change used in applied research to evaluate a policy initiative and social program to determine if it's working. Can be small, large scale, etc. And this is why a lot of work in this area is controversial, especially in social sciences. I remember some studies, they were given case studies. When you work with this, you work with case studies, okay? If you want to evaluate the application of the new English teaching text used in schools. This could be evaluative. In comparison to what? To the older ones. Do you have enough data about the older ones? Do you have the same students? Do you have the same teachers? Do you have the same learning environment? Do children here have the same family support that children have back there? What are the involving factors? And this is why evaluation is not really easy to do. It's not easy to do. Although it can be done. Not easy. I mean, the results are not always highly reliable. Okay, they could be very valid, but they may not be reliable. And research could be valid and not reliable, and vice versa. Okay, that could be. Doesn't mean when it is valid, it's reliable. Okay. Units of analysis. I mean, who is involved in analysis? طبعا units أحسن منها قلنا احنا subjects. Could be individuals, groups, organizations, social artifacts, products of social being. طبعا this is for social, talking about social research. They give you example: books, poems, paintings, automobiles, building. Anything could be unit. Here we could be textbooks, research methods, teaching methods, teacher preparation, anything that could fall into this. Okay. They talk about here product. They talk about interaction, like social interaction, friendship, choices, court cases, traffic accidents, parent-children relationship, husband-wife relationship, teacher-student relationship, things like that. Okay. طبعا هنا أعطاكم مثلا social sciences, weddings or marriage, and things that are involved in marriage in general. They give example of examples in social research. I'm sorry. that may be taken in consideration: orientations, characteristics, orientation, well, attitudes, beliefs, prejudices, personality traits, etc. And people orientation, I mean people's attitudes. Organizations would be in terms of policy, procedures of organization, how they affect the efficiency of the organization, types of policies involved, etc. And social interactions, and I give you examples of them before. Here is a list that we talked about, and they give you definition, okay, regarding some of them, like time dimension. When you do research, and there are two in time dimension in terms of research planning is different of time dimension when in research in analysis. Okay, in planning you have time span that you want to finish your research. So you cut your research steps on time spans. But here you talk about time dimension in the research, which is, are you doing cross-sectional or longitudinal? What is the difference between the two? So this is what we mean by cross-sectional. You know, you work in a cross-section, either based on age or any factor. Okay, it could be any issue, and just give you an example. And longitudinal, long period of time. Conceptualization, and I talked about this before. You must specify the meanings of the concepts and the variables to be studied. It should be very clear. We'll نتكلم إن شاء الله later on variables, because we have dependent and independent variables, and your variables should be very clear. The concept that you're dealing with will be very clear. Therefore, you could really, if they're fuzzy, not clear to you, they will never be clear to the readers, and therefore your results may not be clear. Operationalism, how will we actually measure the variable and the study, how we work with them. Reliability, we talked about that. Is it repeatable, as you mentioned? Replication, can others replicate the results? And this is very important. Is your study replicable or not? And we talked about validity, that we'll examine later, but are the results true reflection of the world? I mean, are they, the question that you ask, are they related to your answers? Okay. We'll finish with this today. Then we'll work with them, inshallah, for next time, based on the textbook that you have. You need to look. I'll see if we need to, even some of you will, to keep in touch. And we lose touch if we don't really keep discussing these issues. When there are major research steps that we take in consideration, choosing a topic, focused research question or questions, the design of your study, the data collection process that you're going to follow, data analysis, how you will interpret your data, and how you present your results. Each step requires some form of a workshop. Inshallah, next time when we meet with Allah next week, we'll start with choosing a topic.